Hey, this is Agi Keramidas, the host of Personal Development Mastery Podcast. And if you really want to learn how to level up your life, you should be listening to the Time to Shine Today podcast with my good friend Scott Ferguson. Let's level up.
Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson, and I reached all the way over to England just so I could bring my guy into the Shine Studios here, Dr. Agi Keramidas. I might have butchered his name there because I kind of recorded this a little bit after, but Doc is just absolutely fantastic. His podcast, which is in the show notes, Personal Development Mastery, is top 1.5% in the world, higher than mine. Just kind of right behind Rogan and all those other guys. So his show is awesome. Drops some serious knowledge nuggets in this interview. He gave me a lot more time than we had scheduled, so I feel very blessed with that. You're definitely going to want to break out your notebooks and sit back and relax because the knowledge nuggets that he drops are just above reproach. And if you like it or know somebody that needs to be leveled up, please share it with them. Or if you like it, please subscribe or hit the like button. My sponsors and affiliates absolutely love that. So without further ado, here is the host of the Personal Development Mastery Podcast and my good friend, Dr. Agi Keramidas. Let's level up. Time to Shine Today Podcast, Varsity Squad. This is Scott Ferguson. I reached way over the pond over into England to get my good friend, Agi Keramidas, on. Agi is a fantastic podcaster. His podcast is top 1.5% globally. I'm only 2.5%. So he's got me beat by a whole percent. And I think I took up a lot of his time kind of picking his brain and talking to him a little bit before we even fired up the mics. But Dr. Agi is originally from Greece and has been living in the UK since 2010. His journey took him from being a dentist with a master's degree to becoming a podcaster, knowledge broker, author, and best of all, a mentor, because like we always say, the more you mentor, the more immortal you become. He's on a lifelong journey of personal growth and self-mastery. Despite his formal education, he is a big believer in the immense power of self-education. He's a critical thinker and yet at the same time, deeply spiritual. He's the host of the Personal Development Mastery Podcast. Again, squad, don't go there yet, but make sure you put it on your playlist, the top 1.5% globally. And his mission is to inspire his audience to stand out and take action towards the next level of their lives. So, Doc, thank you so much for coming on the show. Please introduce yourself to the Time to Shine Today Podcast Varsity Squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
My favorite color is orange.
Orange.
Maybe you can see it orange.
Oh, that's
yes.
right. It's in the book. And squad, hang out.
It is in the book, in the podcast.
Giveaway.
I'm not sure why. I've always been drawn to it.
Okay.
Maybe it is, I'm not sure. It has a warmth. It reminds me of the sun, that color, especially sometimes the sun can get this orange color. Right. So,
and it's a fun color, at least here in the States. Like I went to this whole seminar one time about colors. The reason why I asked for colors is you learn a little bit about personalities. Plus we build your whole show, formatting around your colors for the artwork and all that other jazz. So, but it's a fun color. It's like people are laid back. People that like orange. And I know like you already, man.
Right. That's great to know. I didn't know that about orange. So thank you for that.
So let's get to the roots of you a little bit, because your show does inspire a lot of people, including myself. And you have great guests on, which I hope to be one day, hint, hint. But no, seriously, where do we get our roots from? Because I know that you kind of went to school to dig into people's oral in their face, the cavity in their face. But where did we go from there into what you're doing now, really leveling up the masses?
Yeah, good question, and lots of things in there. But yes, as you said, I studied in my home country, Greece, to be a dentist. Then I moved to the UK. I did a master's degree in dentistry here. The transition and what took me gradually out of there and into personal development in the beginning, and then podcasting, and then probably combining these two inevitably. The transition happened because at some point in my early 40s, I found myself, it was just after I graduated from my master's degree in aesthetic dentistry, instead of really wanting to apply what I have been learning for 2 years and have spent a considerable amount of money I found myself completely unmotivated, confused, unfulfilled, and I started looking for answers. And then I discovered personal development and some books, some seminars. One thing brought to the other. I went to a Tony Robbins event. Things changed quite rapidly there, and discovered something that I was very much passionate about. And then podcasting came a little bit further down the line. In 2018, I started my first podcast, and then this podcast have now 2020, just before the lockdown.
The good old pandemic. So, you, with personal development, you worked on yourself with that. Now, did I hear Tony Robbins in there?
Yes, you did hear Tony Robbins. I went to his event in London in T17. That was the very first time I went there, and I had a big transformation or a light bulb moment at that event, which changed me very much subsequently as a person. Very much.
Yeah, I've been blessed to open for him on stage a few times. One of his 10 or 15 speakers that come on before. But you can't help but be transformed with that. But let me ask you something about that. So you go there and you leave and you are fired up, man. You're like rah, rah, rah. What made it stick? Because a lot of people, just like a New Year's resolution on January 1st, I'm going to get in shape. By February 8th, they quit, right? So same thing, you go to the TR's thing, Tony Robbins thing, you are fired up, but what made it stick?
One thing, action, taking action immediately after leaving the event, implementing, because we were left not only fired up, but if we had done our work during the event, we would have had an action list written down in our workbook. So the difference between people who go back to their normal life, and for me in that particular occasion, was that I took action on those things that I had written down. And in particular, there was one thing that really changed things around. From being a very closed, shy person, at that event I discovered that this was a limiting belief that I had, and I was shy and close to speak to people. I thought that people were not interested. So what did I do as an action? I went to a public speaking event, and then that really changed things very much, because I took action despite the fear that I had that was holding me back. But I knew it during the event. I knew very clearly that I have to do that.
Right.
The thing is that I did it, and then that action led to momentum, and I think that is the key there. That once you take some action, then momentum builds up, and then it is easy. Then you don't have to struggle to. Don't get me wrong. It's when I say easy, that it's not challenging or it's not out of the comfort zone.
Right.
But you don't have this kind of force against you. Whereas when you start,
the doubt the doubt goes away a little bit, right? Yeah.
Pick up momentum, and then it gets quicker and simpler.
Yes. It's like if I was to fly to see you in England, right? That plane, it takes so much to get it off the ground. That's that action, right? But then when it's up in the air, it takes so much fuel, takes so much energy. But once it's in the air, it doesn't use as much fuel. You're kind of soaring. But like you just said, challenges are going to come. If you go 1 degree off, I might end up in another country, right? So you have to course correct a little bit. So I love that you said that. So tell me a little bit about the public speaking, man. Tell me a little bit about that first time, because a lot of people, they fear public speaking more than death. So tell me a little bit about that first time that you went and then had to get up and present your 2 or 3 minute kind of speech. Because here we have what's called Toastmasters, and like a lot of people will do that, and it's only like 30 seconds to 3 minutes a lot of times. So what was going through your mind there? Because you were so uncomfortable.
I was one of those people that feared public speaking more than death. I was one of them. So I went to a free event And then I took the courage at some point. The speaker said, who wants to come? I want a volunteer to write something. And I put up my hand before really. I don't know. My hand got on my... it was too late then.
Yeah.
And I realized that I didn't die. And actually I got a round of applause there, which for doing something very simple. So that built up a little bit of confidence. But I went to a 5-day public speaking boot camp. Then I did go to Toastmasters afterwards, but the first thing I did was those 5 days, consecutive days, Monday to Friday. And that was because of the total immersion, 9-10 hours every day of, and it was a little bit of theory, but mostly it was talking, of speaking, us speaking in groups of people. So that really, I was very uncomfortable, but what really made a big difference in me was the confidence I acquired when I realized that people would listen and they would say, oh, I can hear you speak, I could hear you speak, carry on please, there is more.
Right.
When you hear those things, it starts rewiring your beliefs about it. But to answer your question, my actual first speech, the proper, I mean, in a not any controlled environment, was and actually it was a property investors or a real estate investors networking event.
Nice.
Which I spoke in front of 40 people about mindset, not about property, about mindset, which was my topic. And what I found was that once I started speaking, all the fear and the worry and even the internal dialogue disappeared. I was just speaking and being in the flow of it, which I was not expecting that, but I was also very excited, shall we say, butterflies and everything. Some people will say I was very stressed, but no, I wouldn't call it stress. I would say it was excitement. At that time. Yes.
Yeah, and it happens
I enjoyed it.
And it happens every single time you get on stage. Like you still feel that. Like there's a DJ out there, right, that plays music. His name's Steve Aoki. He's the guy that his dad invented Benihana restaurants, and but he throws the cakes out in there. And I ran into him at a speaking event in Vegas, and I picked his brain. He's like, listen, whether I'm speaking in front of 3 people, 30 people, 300 people, 3,000, 30,000 people, it's the butterflies are still there. And we kind of need those, right? And that kind of leads into anything within personal development, challenging ourselves. So why do you feel then, Doc, that people, we'll go back to the New Year's resolution. Why do you think people start something in January 1st and they quit it by the latest February 8th? That it's documented, it's science. 87% of people quit.
I've been there.
Me too. Me too. Why do you feel that is?
I think it's one of the two things, depending. One is that they have set a wrong one way or the other resolution. So something that is not what they really need to focus, or maybe it is unrealistic, or because they do tend to set some unrealistic goals that you can change everything overnight for a long time. It's not exactly like that. So one reason is this, that they do not set the right resolution, right for them, I mean, at that time.
Or goal, I think, for that matter, right?
Or goal, yes. Yes, some things are... It's a big thing on its own, but I think there is also another, that they don't stick to it long enough, or in other words, they give up before seeing the results. Let's say, for example, you decide to go to the gym. All right, 1st of January I will start exercising and lifting weights. And by the 1st of February, so you have been into the gym a few times, you've done your thing, and you look at yourself in the mirror and you don't see a massive transformation. You probably don't see anything after a month.
Right.
You have put effort, you're tired, maybe you're starting to get fed up with it. And then you say, what's the point? This is not working, or this will take ages. And it's a matter of finding what will drive you to carry on doing it until you actually, it's that momentum we were saying earlier, because the moment you you realize that, oh, I feel good every time I go to the gym, then
Right.
it's not a struggle to say, oh, how can I go? You
Right.
just go because it's that, you love doing it.
Yeah.
You feel great. So
Right.
I think these are the two main reasons. It's a good question. I had never thought of this before,
Yeah.
so thank you for asking me.
No, 100%. And a lot of times that passion is just not there to back up their goal. Like they'll say a lot of people will pick something that everybody else is doing, right? Which I've noticed.
Yeah.
And like I have a lot of people that sit on their butt and they game all day on the video games, and it's what a lot of their friends are doing, right? And they're passionate about it because they look forward to it. So what do you feel about them really getting with a squad or a tribe to really help keep them accountable to a goal, no matter if it's fitness or look at you and I, we started podcasting. And the reason why you're at where you're at and I got to where I got is because of our consistency, right? And that's what it was. That's the bottom line. So what do you think about, once I started getting a little bit of traction with my show, people started kind of reaching out to me and I built a tribe around it and then kind of skyrocketed a little bit. What do you feel about building a tribe, and how could people go out and find a tribe or a squad of people to support them?
First of all, it's very important to be around the people that support what it is that you want to do. You gave the example of gamers or people who spend time with playing video games. When you're describing that, I mean, I can imagine a teenager doing that. But
Yes.
if we're talking about middle-aged people that spend time with that, for me, anyway, I will leave that aside. But to
I know
answer,
where you're going. I know exactly where you're going because I'm right there with you, brother.
in terms of the, I will then, since you're right with me, I will only say that as personally, I will speak completely from my own personal experience, and I'm not passing any judgment. But I am 50 years old. I realized, and recently, the last few years, more and more, how brief is the time that I have. My life is, I'm 50 years old. I don't know how many more years I have.
Yeah.
Even if I have another 50, it's still running out. It's always running out. So personally, and don't get me wrong, I have played game many years in my past. So I'm not...
I'm 52, man. So I'm in that generation with you, right? So... And we look good for our age too, by the way, out there. So I'll tell you that.
Thank you.
But no.
So I don't want to personally to waste time on an activity that for me doesn't lead anywhere.
It doesn't pay dividends on nothing, on anything.
Right? I mean, you can play for a bit if you want, but as an entertainment but being addicted and playing hours every day, I think that's my personal opinion. Again, I'm not putting any judgment on anyone. But the tribe, you asked about the tribe. If your people around you are also of a similar mindset and habits, you will inevitably carry on doing that. So if you want to get out of a habit, or even better, create a new habit, because that's how it is easier rather than eliminating a habit, creating a new habit to replace that eventually. So for that habit, find the people and get connected with the people and communicate with the people and become accountable to these people about what it is that you want to do, and these people will naturally support you. If you want to, I don't know, quit smoking and you're surrounded by non-smokers, you're going to quit very easily. But if the people around you all smoke, it's very difficult. So always be aware of those 5 people that Jim Rohn used to say. We become the average of the 5 people we spend most of our time with. So look at who you are, and that is the average, and make a list of those 5 people. Who are these 5 people in your life? And then you start to realize how much of their traits have become your traits and behaviors, simply because inevitably that's our biggest influence. It's other people, the people closest to us.
Right. So if they're gonna, like in anything, whether you're working out, let's say you've surrounded yourself with a squad or people, you've made great progress. No matter what you're at, you hit a wall. You hit that. There's still another peak, because people like you and I and other people out there that are out there doing that. We know that the top of one peak is the bottom of another peak, right? Because we're always improving. Okay, when they hit that wall, what do you recommend to those people, right? Because again, my coach told me when I wasn't making in my business, he's just like, listen, man, inch by inch, it's a cinch. By the yard, it's hard, right? So it's like take a little bit at a time, right? And I coach from that as well. What is your advice for people, Doc, that the people that hit that wall and they still want to keep going, right? But like, what would you tell that person if you're just sitting and chatting with them?
Definitely. Thank you for the question. It's inevitable to hit a wall or a plateau. I mean, that's how it is.
Yes,
You can't get any other way. Growth does not happen like in a linear scale. It's like it's a up and down and up and down. So the two things I would say first is reconnect with the reason, like why are you doing that? Because sometimes we tend to forget. We get more tactical and we forget why we started doing it. And then we say, oh, I haven't hit that milestone or that limit, or I have hit it and I just discovered another one. Why are you doing that? Reconnect with that. That's the first thing I will say. The second thing is what I have found, and I have also experienced to be very common, is let's say you want to reach here, all right? And you carry on, and you reach here. And you look at your state, and you look at how much more you have to go, and you say, no, I'm not there yet. This is frustrated. I've hit a wall and blah, 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 and then all the negative. So rather than focusing on what the next peak is or what you thought that you would have achieved by then, focus on the progress that you have had until that moment. Because that's what we tend to forget. We tend to take it for granted. I mean, and I'm speaking again with personal experience. I have done 420 episodes on the podcast. There have been times that I thought, no, I'm not satisfied with how the podcast is growing. But no matter how much you grow, there's going to be, I mean, it's human nature to want more, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we have to appreciate, first of all, what we have done. And I think when we appreciate what we have achieved so far and reconnect with the reason why, our purpose, or the reason why we're doing it, then we will carry on. And it's a journey. It's another peak and another peak. It only ends when we decide.
It's Kaizen. It's continuous improvement. And like if I was ever coaching you, I call it stacking dubs or stacking your W's, your wins, right? And I'm going to show, if you're watching on Vimeo or YouTube out there, I'm going to show the squad of listeners and watchers out there is if I had Doc as a coach, I would show them this. This is what I would say. It's like, listen, you're 1.5% in the world, in all podcasters. That is something that you can really look on. Don't rest your laurels there, right? But know that you go back to, like you said, go back to that purpose, that why. Why are you doing this? And sometimes when you stack those W's, like you said, and go back and look at them, something might fire up in your brain saying, oh, next, now I know what I got. And the same thing with, that's why a lot of fitness people, they want pictures taken of their clients. They were like 200 pounds and their goal weight is 150. And they hit a wall at 172. They can show them that picture. They can stack those W's, those wins.
Yes.
That's awesome, man. So how would you work? What is your advice for people that have kind of a victim mindset? Now, I know off mic what you and I might say about that, right? But if you were consulting people, okay, and talking to somebody and you poured into it, I know a little bit's in your book, but like, how do you work with people that might have a victim mindset? Everything happens to me. It's never for them. It's always to me. How do you work with victims?
I think what's important to understand in that situation is that when we become the victim or consider ourselves to be the victim, we don't have any power to change the situation, because we put the blame or the responsibility or whatever to someone else. Could be our parents or the government or our boss or whatever. The only way really to get control of your life is to accept the responsibility that you have, because no matter what the other people have done or do, in the end it is your experience and how you perceive these things. I wish, Scott, there was some magic instant trick or tip I could offer to someone with a victim mentality, but that thing from that life is happening to me, that is simply not right. You don't have any power when you're thinking like that.
I just wrote that down, man. That's amazing. It's what is your definition of responsibility then?
Responsibility, your ability to respond. to respond to the situation.
That's what I say. Dude, you and I are brothers from different mothers, man. I'm telling you, dude. Like, that's exactly. Someone said, "What's your It's the ability to respond." One of my canned speeches is responsibility, the ability to respond. That's one of them that I speak on. It's 100% true that you take that. So have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's get in that DeLorean with Marty McFly. So you're 50 now. Let's go back to the Double Deuce, the 22-year-old. You weren't a doctor yet then or anything, but let's go back to 22-year-old you. What kind of knowledge nuggets might you drop on him? Not to change anything, because your life has been a really nice trajectory of learning and experiences, but to maybe help him shorten a learning curve or blast through maybe just a little bit quicker?
The single most important thing I would say, even though I don't know whether I would be heard, but I would certainly.
I was just going to say, would you listen to yourself? But
yes, I would. It's that I would really need time to be able to put it in a way that is very influential and persuasive. But apart from that, I think the biggest lesson is believe in yourself and for yourself, and what it is that you feel that is right for you, go for it, despite if there are objections from the people around you. It's only you that knows what it is that you want, what's in your heart. No one else. They might have the best intentions for you, but still it is your life. So I think that would be the primary. Yes.
Ever since 2009, when we were talking off mic, when, I kind of lost everything and I rebuilt everything into service. And I've made 2 New Year's resolutions every year since 2009. 1, make someone smile every single day, no matter what, make someone smile. And 2, unless I've hurt you, disrespected you, owe you, or judged you, I give 0 whats about what you think about me. I don't care. There's nothing that you can say. When I was younger, I could have been influenced by what other people say. Ego, all that stuff. Not saying I don't have an ego, because there's times when I have to have one, but it's been more under control. I just don't care, So, Doc, how do you want your dash remembered? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date, your life date and death date on your tombstone. Hopefully it's another 50, 60 years down the line, right? But how does Doc want his dash remembered?
Yes, what a question. What comes to my mind is what I always end my podcast with, the phrase "stand out, don't fit in." So I would like to be remembered as someone who indeed stood out and didn't fit in. And of course there is a big explanation with these 4 words, but I think that would, to embody that and live it and be agreed that Agi was this person, I think that would be very much
love it.
The answer to your question.
No, I love it. What do you think people misunderstand about you?
I have never thought of it before. Sometimes maybe they misunderstand the fact that I don't necessarily connect very easily with new people. I do, but not to like some other people that they are
Yeah.
natural
Yeah.
networkers and
Like you and
immediately
I, we connected like that,
we
right?
connected, yeah, but I'm not like that with everyone.
Me
There
neither.
are people that are like that with most people. So that can be misunderstood for me that I don't care or some other element which is not necessarily
No.
like that. I have a filtering process and it's not necessarily an intellectual filter. Mainly it is the filter comes from my intuition.
Right.
So maybe that's what's misunderstood, but it's a good question.
Love it.
I will ask to see
You
what
ask
they
yourself.
say. Not
So-
myself. I will ask some people to get answers. Yeah.
So that's a great self-reflection. I ask people as well. I do that. So in a sentence, what is the definition of success to you?
The freedom to live the life that was meant for me to live and I want to live. The words freedom will go immediately with the word success. And freedom, it means many things,
Yeah.
but you can get an idea.
Oh, yeah. What I say when I'm asked that question is success is living a life of options and not obligations. That's what I say. You know what I'm saying? It's like options mean freedom,
Yes.
right? So, and I didn't make that up. I regurgitated it from one of my coaches. I'm saying, and the funny thing about that is you wrote a book, I'm writing a book, we have pocket, everything's regurgitated, man. Like I regurgitate what I might learn from somebody. Tony Robbins regurgitated Jim Rohn, Earl Nightingale, Wallace, all the way back to Aristotle or whatnot. But I'm saying we all regurgitate. I'm sure they regurgitate something from the gods. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we all are. So I love that. So then what is your definition of a life well lived?
Fulfillment is the first word that comes to mind. Feeling, and that is the life well lived. It's not external, it is internal because it's different for a different person. Some person will need a certain level of, I don't know, opulence for that. Another person will need a certain level of emotional commitment. Right. So that is very different for different people. But I think the common link is feeling fulfilled, feeling good about yourself, feeling that this is it. I feel good, man. That's how Love I can express it. That is a life well lived.
Time to Shine Today podcast, Varsity Squad. We are back. And Doc, I'm going to make it a point to meet you in the flesh one day, in person, okay? And we'll ask some of these questions and kind of go back and forth over a cup of coffee or whatever our choice of beverage is, okay? But today, you've got 5 seconds with no explanations, and they can all be answered that way, I promise you. You ready to level up?
Yeah.
Let's do it. All right. Doc, what is the best leveling up advice you've ever received?
One person once asked me, what is your podcast growth strategy? And I realized I didn't have the answer. So that was a great advice that I need one.
Love it. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Morning routine. 110% morning routine.
Everything's about that. Everything. Yeah. So if you see me kind of walking down the street or at an event or something, you're like, Fergie looks like he's in his doldrums a little bit. What book, other than your own, what book has really turned your mind on?
How to Win Friends and Influence People. I read that, Dale Carnegie, I read that book, I was in my mid-30s. Okay. And I thought, oh my God, why did I not read this book 20 years ago as a teenager? It would have changed my life.
Love it. Your most commonly used emoji when you text?
The smiley.
Love it. Nicknames growing up?
Not really. No. I don't think I had any.
Gotcha. No worries. Chess, checkers, or Monopoly?
Chess, 100%. Okay. Yeah.
Headline for your life?
Stand out, don't fit in.
Yes. Go-to ice cream flavor?
Lemon sorbet.
Okay. Favorite charity and or organization you'd like to give your time and or money to?
I have been, there are a few. The one that comes to my mind now is Vipassana. It's a world organization that teaches meditation practice, and it is operating solely by donations.
Love it. Best decade of music, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
70s.
70s. Love it. Love it. Yeah, I love the 70s because there's storytelling in those. When it's like I'm being 52, I graduated in 1990 from high school. And so it was like the 80s was a huge decade, and I love the 80s music, don't get me wrong. But the 70s is something my parents used to play it in the background. It's like stuff like that. So Doc, how can we find you?
If you enjoyed listenings, then you will find me in my podcast, Personal Development Mastery, which you can get wherever you listen to your podcasts. And there is a website there. I'm sure you will put.
Everything will be in the show notes on that. Tell me a little bit about the book you authored.
The book it's my first book. I published it last year, 88 Actionable Insights for Life. Much of it was content that I drew from the podcast, and it is very short, actionable, because that is the key word. It is not about passing on knowledge. It's about reading something that will click, and you will say, okay, I'm going to do this. And as a result of doing this, then change happens.
Love it.
As a matter of fact, I am very happy to offer the electronic version of the book as a gift to your listeners.
PDF
it
version?
Is a PDF version, yes.
And I love that Kindle finally got it right. That when you upload a PDF in, you can highlight it. You can swipe it, like it'll remember the last page you read. That was the thing. I'd get PDFs and I'd be like, oh man, I'm gonna have to like write down on a piece of paper the last page that I read. Now they got it right, man. You upload a PDF into Kindle. Finally, you can highlight it and it'll go from no, it won't. It won't. If you have to put it on a specific device, by a Kindle device. So it can only be highlighted on that device, but it's great. And Squad, I'm also going to do a 2 physical book giveaway for the first person that puts, I don't know, let's just say mastery in any of our social. I don't care if it's Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. If you text it to 561-440-3830, I don't care who puts mastery in there. The first 2 people are going to get a book mailed out on time to shine today's dime. And also, we're going to, when that stops, when we do the 2 book giveaway, I'm going to do 5 Kindle versions for mastery as well. So you might end up with a Kindle version, but just remember, you'll get a free one from the doc here. So Mr. Keramidas. So he's given away a free PDF, but if you'd like it on your Kindle or 2 books, just make sure you put mastery into any of our social media. And Doc, do me one last solid, please, and leave us with one last knowledge nugget we can take with us, internalize, and take action on.
Thank you, Scott, very much for this conversation. And this was incredible. I appreciate very much your questions and your presence.
You're welcome.
What I would say to someone listening right now is that thing or that idea that you have been thinking about for a while now, but it's still just an idea. You have not done it or taken action on it. I will invite you to take a little bit of action towards it today. It doesn't have to be anything big. Research the internet about it or pick up the phone and make an inquiry. It's something simple, and see how that simple thing can start to create momentum and make things change.
It's like that plane taking off, man, or just that first step or that first walk into the speech room over there, right? And just took that one little one. And Squad, I just had a super fun, super educational chat with my really good friend that he found himself unmotivated, a little bit confused. He started really diving into his own personal development. He took action immediately and implemented what he learned from TR's seminar, and he took little baby steps. Again, inch by inch, it's a cinch. By the yard, it's hard. The doc here, shyness was his limiting belief. He got in, he just dove into the public speaking. Again, little ones at a time, which built his momentum. Okay? He wants you to set your goals and stick to them. And when you hit that wall, build that squad around you, and they'll help push you through. And then when you hit that plateau, remember what you have accomplished. Reconnect with your why. Why did you start this? And again, I call it stacking your dubs, stacking your wins. He reminded us that when you are a victim, you don't have the power to change your situations. So just make adjustments, not excuses. That's what winners do. They make adjustments. They don't make excuses. Believe in yourself and for yourself, despite what other people think about you. That was a great nugget that the doc dropped on us. He wants us to stand out. Don't fit in, but always come from a place of service. I mean, my good friend here, he's planting trees he's never going to sit in the shade of, and he does stuff for the intention, not the attention. You don't see him out there being rah, rah, look at me. He's actually digging in, and he mentors a lot. And again, the more you mentor, the more immortal you become. People remember you, and it came from you. You just keep pouring into people. And lastly, that idea that's been stewing in your mind, if you're not taking action, take that one little inch, that one little step, and then build that momentum. And that's what my good friend does here. He levels up his health. He levels up his wealth. He's super handsome dude. He's well-spoken. He's out there doing it. I absolutely love your guts, brother. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day. Hey, thanks so much for listening to this episode of Time to Shine Today, proudly brought to you by Inlet Properties and Investments. If you are a business owner or professional who would like to be interviewed on the Time to Shine Today podcast, please visit timetoshinetoday.com/guest. If you'd like this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to our website. Also, there you will see our recommended resources. We hope you will help support our show by supporting them. If you like what you have been listening to, it'd be great if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe while you're at it. I'm your host, Scott Ferguson, and until next time, let's level up. It's your time to shine.